from a station working for you. This is WRTV News at 5:30, streaming now.
Now at 5:30, it's the month to put the spotlight on breast cancer awareness and survival. One survivor shares her story and how she's working to give back to other women. And giving police the tools to save lives in the event of an emergency. The department that received a very important donation today. Chris.
Topping our lineup today, fighting stigmas could be another challenge for people who are unemployed. We find out just how concerned you should be about perceptions when you're looking for a new job. And people across the country aren't letting distance stop them from voting the extreme lengths that some are going to make their voices heard. And working from home, making this weekend's time change for much of the country a little different. We're taking a look at just how you can adjust.
First at 5:30, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. According to the CDC, breast cancer is the second most common cancer among women in the U.S., behind some forms of skin cancer. Tonight, WRTV's Kelsey Anderson talks to a breast cancer survivor about how she's now giving back, helping women dealing with something she went through 19 years ago.
Whether it be a wig, a prosthetic, or a bra, here at the Women's Health Boutique at Ascension St. Vincent, they are helping breast cancer patients and breast cancer survivors gain even more confidence and get back to their daily lives.
It was in my lymph nodes. I had chemo, radiation, and a full mastectomy at 36.
Karen Albion is a 19-year cancer survivor.
It was terrifying. Luckily, I had a great home support system. I had a kindergartner and a third grader at the time. I just wanted to get through it for them and for my husband.
9 months later, Albion tells me she was cancer-free. Now she works here at the Women's Boutique at Ascension St. Vincent.
I feel like I can really give back to the community of women that are going through what I did.
Leah Madera is the manager of the boutique, and she says they help women at every stage of their breast cancer fight.
They'll come in and be fitted for their post-surgical garments that help with recovery, help with strain management, and then we'll see them at various stages along their journey. We'll see them sometimes if they're having chemo, we'll help them with wigs. If they are having radiation and they've triggered lymphedema, we'll see them for those garments. We also see them then once they've finished their surgery, and we'll help fit them for mastectomy bras and prosthetics.
Madera says they help more than 50 patients every month.
One of the most common comments that we hear from women during a fitting is that they finally are able to feel like a woman again.
As for Albion, she says the boutique is a safe place and something she wishes was around 19 years ago.
I just feel like it's a safe place, especially if somebody has been through the same thing you have or has been trained to deal with that type of issue. And it would have meant the world to me had I had something that I could have turned to at the time.
The items in this boutique are covered under durable medical equipment, meaning that they are covered by most insurances. Working for you, Kelsey Anderson, WRTV.
Greenfield police officers are now better equipped to give life-saving care in an emergency. The department received 5 new AEDs today from Bolt for the Heart, made possible by a donation from AP Engineering and Consulting in Greenfield. Nearly every Greenfield police vehicle is equipped with these portable defibrillators, which are used often by officers, according to the department. Today's donation will help replace older devices that are nearing the end of their usability. Kyle.
How about this view? Not only do we have some fall foliage to check out there in Greencastle, but also some blue sky. The sun is shining out once again, and we're going to see a lot more of that as we head into the weekend here. Temperatures still a little bit on the cool side, but the sun helps make it feel just a little warmer out there. It's 46 for you in Columbus, 52 in Bloomington. So we're still sitting kind of on the border here of a transition from chilly temperatures off to the northeast. There are some 60s to the southwest. Eventually we'll get in on those, but it is going to take us a little while. Another thing not going on out there, any rainfall, but that's okay because we have had plenty of that over the last couple of weeks. In the last 12 days, Indianapolis has picked up over 5 inches of rainfall. It looks like we got a pretty dry stretch with those clear skies. Nice to check out the nearly full moon that will be out there for you tonight. It will be full tomorrow night. Temperatures this evening, 44 degrees at 7 o'clock, 42 at 8, and we'll get into the upper 30s already at 9 o'clock. So if you're heading out and maybe going to some of those football games, want to take the coat, maybe the hand warmers here this evening. Temperatures tomorrow morning, they are going to be on the chilly side again. We got numbers in the upper 20s around Kokomo, Lafayette, 30 in Greenwood, 31 in Columbus. We'll talk about kind of some back and forth temperatures and a breezy weekend coming our way. Chris?
Early voting in Texas has already exceeded the state's total ballots that were cast in 2016. That's more than 9 million. The unprecedented surge may mean Texas is drifting towards battleground status. The state also only offers limited vote-by-mail options. Most Texans opt for in-person early voting if they don't want to line up on Election Day. Now, when counting mail-in or absentee ballots, signature verification could take on a bigger role than ever before. Questions about the process could lead to courts making decisions that impact the outcome.
You're simply talking about more ballots. And when you have a situation where different counties are perhaps employing different processes, and there could be a lot of litigation.
States and counties take different steps to check if a signature matches what they have on file. Some local election officials let voters know ahead of time if their ballot has been rejected so they can fix it. Voters in other states might not find out until after the election or never at all. Now, some states are more lenient, like they'll accept a nickname instead of a full name, but others do closely check that signature, which can create problems for people with medical conditions like those that cause tremors that lead to inconsistent signatures.
Part of the problem is there's not a whole lot of accountability in terms of review. And of course, election officials aren't experts at reviewing signatures. And even for experts, comparing signatures can be really difficult.
Now, if you find out your ballot has been rejected or challenged because of the signature, contact your county or election officials. You can also call the Election Protection Hotline at the number on your screen, 1-866-OUR-VOTE, with any questions about voting. Now, to secure the U.S. election, the Department of Homeland Security is launching one of its largest operations. It's trying to make sure there isn't a repeat of the Russian interference in 2016. The government is launching a 24/7 war room to help election officials make sure everything goes smoothly. All right, next in our lineup, a perceived stigma around unemployment may be preventing some people from doing everything they need to get hired right now. We're looking at if this is actually something that you should worry about and the best way to ask for help. A majority of unemployed Americans think there is a negative stigma associated with unemployment. That's despite the fact that so many people are out of work.
It has a huge effect on people, just even the thought that there is this stigma out there. So we've heard from people who said they felt uneasy, they felt ashamed.
Now, that job search and careers expert at LinkedIn says that our current situation has changed the stigma because nearly all hiring managers tell them that they would hire a candidate who was laid off due to the pandemic. And we're helping you get past that perceived stigma in the second part of our series on hiring. Only half of unemployed Americans have posted on social media about being unemployed or looking for a job because some of them are concerned that it makes them look either needy or desperate.
But what we found is that hiring managers say that when they see people who are posting online that they are open to work or they're looking for work and they need maybe some leads, what they think is that those job seekers are actually resourceful, they're being proactive, and they're problem solvers.
LinkedIn also found fewer than half of people have been actively networking while unemployed.
And even if you don't think you have a network, usually people do. Maybe they've been working with their local PTA, a nonprofit, or just dropping their kids off at school. So you know their teacher, you know their principal. Those are your network, even if you don't think they are.
Now, it can be intimidating to ask for help, but that's what's going to help you get hired. And they say that telling family and friends what type of job you're looking for is a great place to start because they can help connect you. Now, more hiring for the holidays. Lowe's saying today it wants to hire 20,000 additional workers for stores and distribution centers. Lowe's has a part-time and full-time positions that are available. Hourly workers are getting a bonus next month between $150 and $300. It is the sixth one that Lowe's has paid since this pandemic began.
It was just so important to me that I not be a victim. And so I flew 1,600 miles to vote.
And she is not alone. Ahead in our lineup, we have stories from across the country of people who are not letting distance or missed absentee ballots stop their voice from being heard. With the U.S. Postal Service stretched thin and millions voting by mail, some voters have taken extreme measures to ensure their vote counts. In some cases, they've traveled hundreds of miles to cast a ballot. Usher Qureshi spoke to one woman who wasn't going to let a missing absentee ballot prevent her from getting to the polls.
With the Postmaster General's controversial decision this summer to decommission around 700 mail sorting machines across the country, Sarah Lana was worried about voting by mail.
We all have a choice, and what's going on right now with the Postal Service is another matter entirely. Clearly, it's not working.
In Georgia, where she has lived and voted since 2013, nearly a dozen mail sorting machines were removed. Still, she applied for an absentee ballot.
It was sent out the same day. 3 weeks later, no absentee ballot. And I was getting just so mad. Can you see the mountains?
Even more of a problem, she's currently staying in Durango, Colorado, dealing with respiratory issues.
I'm here to see if the dry air is a little bit better for my breathing problems.
In Georgia, more than 1.1 million absentee by mail ballots have been returned, trouncing the nearly 155,000 cast in 2016. But another 500,000 mail-in ballots have yet to be returned. Sarah Lana decided not to take any chances. Despite being high risk for complications from COVID-19, she bought a $625 plane ticket and made the 1,600-mile journey from Durango to Atlanta to vote in person.
I went through 3 airports. I took 2 flights. I was in 3 Lyft rides, which actually that was scary for me too.
Others have had to make similar trips, like a woman studying here in Chicago who had to travel back to her home state of Texas to cast her ballot. And 94-year-old Mildred Madison, whose children drove her 300 miles one way to Detroit to vote in person when her absentee ballot didn't arrive at her temporary address.
I didn't want to be a victim is the main thing that I want to say. And I want to say that there is no American citizen that needs to be a victim this year. You know, let's just do with what it takes and get out there and vote.
Alana says there's too much at stake this election not to ensure your voice is heard. I'm Usher Qureshi reporting.
Tomorrow, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway will once again become a location where our friends and neighbors can get a helping hand. Gleaners will hold a food distribution event Saturday at the track. Fruits, vegetables, meats, spices, and Halloween treats will be available at the Brickyard Food Drive. Anthem will also provide free flu shots at the event that runs from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. You should enter the track at Gate 2 off of West 16th Street. Kyle.
Well, we needed some rain in central Indiana. We got that over the last couple of days and really last couple of weeks. So now it is nice to see that sun shining once again. The grass is greening up here. And of course, we're enjoying a lot of that fall color as we're right around our peak color here in central Indiana. 49 degrees with those mostly sunny skies downtown. Still a little bit of a northwest breeze around 10 miles per hour. You got temperatures in the lower 50s right now in Bloomington. As we look at kind of the snapshot of the weekend, more sunshine in the Saturday forecast. Clouds will roll back in here on Sunday, maybe an isolated shower there, but really it's going to be about the breezy conditions and the temperature change. We'll go from 55 Saturday to just 46 on Sunday, and that's only part of Sunday's story. We'll talk about that in a second. But as we look at your Halloween Saturday forecast here, sunshine from start to finish, temperatures that will still be in the 30s through 10 a.m. So you will need that jacket as you head out the door. 51 at 2 o'clock, and we'll get into the middle 50s for that afternoon high. Of course, we end daylight saving time this weekend, so don't forget tomorrow night we set those clocks back an hour. Of course, a lot of the clocks will do that on their own, but you'll get that extra hour of sleep. Kind of the trade-off is that by Sunday evening, the sun sets about 20 till 6 in the evening, so it gets dark fairly early for us out there. Now, Sunday, here's part of that weather story. The gusty winds, they'll actually start to crank up here a little bit as we go into Saturday night, but throughout the day on Sunday, steady winds that'll be around 15 to 20 miles per hour with gusts around 35. And look at those temperatures. So we start off in the lower to middle 40s in the morning, but by the afternoon, those temperatures will slide back in the upper 30s to around 40 degrees. Not going to last too long, though. We are going to start to warm things up here in the 7-day planning forecast, and that will actually happen for Election Day itself. 59 degrees there with sunshine. We'll keep it dry through the end of the upcoming week with highs in the 60s. And how about this as we look at the temperature outlook almost to the middle of November, calling for above average temperatures. Chris?
Voting rights groups are making sure everyone has access to voting.
Every registered voter has a right to vote. No matter where you are, and no one should be intimidating you or prohibiting you from voting.
The Arizona group Election Protection included de-escalation training for its volunteers in case of confrontations at voting sites. Protesters have shown up in some parts of the country.
We want to make sure that our volunteers are prepared, that if there are tensions that arise at a polling location, how to speak to each individual to try and calm tensions down.
Voter intimidation is illegal. Experts say the overwhelming majority of voters will not experience intimidation. Election Protection says there are 50 to 75 feet rules in place at voting sites.
That means no one should be asking you how you're voting, should be giving you materials, especially candidate materials. And if anyone is harassing you within that limit, this is definitely things that you want to notify the poll workers inside is happening, so they can come out and address it with that individual.
1-866-OUR-VOTE is a good number to keep handy. That is the Election Protection Hotline. You can call with any questions or concerns that you have at the polls. 3 civil rights groups are suing to challenge the Trump administration's crackdown on diversity training. Recent executive order prohibits some diversity training that the administration says amounts to, quote, divisive anti-American propaganda. The plaintiffs called the order chilling censorship that violates free speech, equal protection, and due process. The order applies to federal agencies, the military, and recipients of federal grants like universities and nonprofits. Now, we're all looking forward to the return of big, live, in-person music events, but some artists and people behind the scenes don't want to return to how things were before. So they're putting a new focus on making the stage more inclusive.
We're now in the year 2020. I think people have had enough.
The music business can't have an effect on society until we've held ourselves accountable.
I've hit my wit's end with being the only one. Being the only one on a stage that looks like me, that reflects my skin tone.
The message that things have to change is growing louder in the music industry. The momentum started with the death of George Floyd.
For those of us who have long desired to advance issues of equity and justice, it created this undeniable moment, and we felt like we needed to seize it.
Binta Nyambi Brown is a music executive who recently co-founded the Black Music Action Coalition. She says when we look at music labels and publishers, there are few people of color in senior positions.
The reality is that when we improve anything for a Black person or for Black artists, Black executives, we're improving the model for everyone.
Fits in the Tantrums, Noel Skaggs is focused on having better pipelines to get young minorities into the live music and touring industry through her organization, Diversify the Stage.
It's just really about widening the net of opportunity and recruitment and really, kind of being considerate of your surroundings. And I think we as artists, we do have a responsibility to participate in this work.
She teamed up with the tour manager behind Never Famous, Jerome Crooks, to expand a resource where touring professionals can market themselves. The effort is already getting noticed, landing them on the cover of this magazine this month.
The promoters and the vendors, they have to listen, and they have to want to be better.
Another thing that may help with hiring is the newly created Black Tour Directory from Live Nation Urban, which lists hundreds of qualified Black professionals in the music industry.
As a Black man in this industry, I just want to move forward, and I want to look forward, and I want to bring people under my wing and bring them up.
I would love for an organization like Diversify the Stage to not have to exist anymore. That is really the ultimate goal.
It's a start to living up to the promises of inclusivity, an issue they say we can't ignore anymore. All right, still to come in our lineup, the time change happening for much of the country this week could feel different because of the pandemic, how it could impact just how well you adjust. The first clock shift since the pandemic started in the U.S. is happening this Sunday nearly everywhere. The time change could be trickier than usual, with many people now working from home, because experts say there's something about not having the benefit of a morning commute.
So being out in your car, typically you have windows and you're getting sun, and you have to usually walk to your car and then from the parking lot to your office. And that time that you're out in the sunlight is really, really important for setting your circadian clock.
I didn't really think of that. Dr. Michael McCarthy says missing out on that morning light from your commute means you really should be planning to get outside to exercise in the morning sunlight because that can be really helpful in boosting your mood.
To the extent that you can, it's really helpful to try to maintain some kind of routine, even if your normal work routine has been disrupted. So try to wake up at around the same time every day. Try to eat your meals at around the same time every day.
One benefit of the time change with it getting dark earlier at night is it could encourage us to get sleep a little bit earlier. Now, that's especially important with how things have been during the pandemic when it comes to sleep. There's a recent survey from the American Academy of Sleep Medicine that found a third of adults say their sleep quality has been impacted during the pandemic. Record number of Americans are struggling to afford housing. U.S. Census survey finds 9.9 million aren't up to date on rent or mortgage payments, and they're not confident about paying for next month. According to the National Low-Income Housing Coalition, there's also a shortage of 7 million affordable rental homes. Well, there's a nationwide ban on evictions, but that ban only stops a renter from actually being kicked out. It's not stopping landlords from starting the eviction process. On Monday, we show you what renters are up against as they struggle to navigate a court system that has largely gone virtual.
Get ready for some chilly mornings here as we go through the next several days. Tonight will be around the freezing mark, briefly warmer going into Sunday, and then by Monday, that's where we kind of hit rock bottom there with temperatures widespread in the middle 20s. So it looks like we'll have a pretty hard freeze there going into early next week. Then temperatures will begin to moderate a little bit. So we've got dry weather this weekend, 55 on Saturday, 46 on Sunday with those falling temperatures and breezy conditions. But there we start to see those numbers improving a little bit. Highs are back into the middle 60s on Wednesday, knocking on the door of 70 degrees a week from today. Thanks for joining us here at 5:30. The news at 6 starts now.